We live in this wild world where you can meet someone from literally anywhere at any time. Long-distance relationships, they're more common than ever. But it brings up a really big question. When your entire relationship is basically happening on a screen, what are you actually building?
I mean, that's really the heart of it, isn't it? If you can't be in the same room, if you can't actually touch someone, what are you building together? Is it a real, solid relationship? Or is it something else? Right? We've all heard these two completely opposite ideas. Out of sight, out of mind. That's the classic warning, right? But then you've got the super romantic idea that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So what's the deal? Which one is true? Well, the reality is, it's messy, because distance does some really weird things to how we see romance. And let's be real for a second. There's a huge pull to it. That constant longing, the ache of just wanting to be with them, and then those super dramatic reunions. Man, those feelings can be powerful, intoxicating even. They can make you feel more alive, more in love than you've ever felt. It's almost like the separation itself is what's fueling the entire romance. Okay, so this leads us right into this fascinating kind of contradictory idea that I call the romance paradox. It's this wild concept that seems totally backwards, but explains exactly why these relationships can feel so incredibly intense. So here's the core idea, and it's a big one. The less time you spend together in actual, day-to-day, boring reality, the more intense and perfect the romance can seem. It's like the distance creates this empty space, and our imagination just goes into overdrive, filling it in with a fantasy. And just look at how this breaks down. It's a seesaw. As the romance factor shoots up, the reality factor plummets. So you get all that intense longing, but you totally miss their everyday flaws. The messy apartment, the cranky mornings. Your conversations feel perfect and idealized because it's so easy to just hang up or text waiter instead of having a real tough conflict. You're not building a life together, you're building a beautiful fantasy.
So why do we do this? What is going on in our brains that makes this whole thing so powerful? Well, it all comes down to the way our minds are wired to fill in the blanks and create stories.
See, we all walk around with what you could call an idealized script. It's basically the movie script in our heads for the perfect partner and the perfect love story. Now, when you meet someone long distance, you just don't have enough real-world data to challenge that script. So what do? You start plugging them right into the role you've already written for them. And this right here is the moment everything changes. You're not really trying to get to know this actual, complicated, messy human being anymore. Instead, your goal becomes casting them perfectly for the part in your personal movie. You've stopped being a partner, and you've become a director.
Now, this kind of relationship, it's not for everybody. It tends to be a magnet for people with some very specific emotional patterns and histories. So who exactly finds this fantasy-driven connection so irresistible?
Well, a lot of the time, it's people who deep down are kind of terrified of real, messy, everyday intimacy. The distance, it feels safe. It might also be someone who gets a bigger thrill from the chase than from the quiet comfort of a stable relationship. But that last one, a family history of unrequited love, that's where things get really interesting.
Think about it for a second. If your family stories are filled with these epic, unfulfilled romances, maybe grandparents separated by a war, or a parent who can never be with their one true love, that whole vibe of unattainable romance can get baked into your subconscious. And without even realizing it, you might find yourself constantly drawn to partners who are just out of reach.
But let's move beyond the fantasy for a moment, because every single long-distance relationship has a hidden challenge, a really, really tough one. And it's not just a test of your love, it's a test of something way more fragile.
And what is that? Well, to put it bluntly, every long-distance relationship is secretly a paranoia test. I know, that sounds intense, but it's true. When you can't see someone, when you're not part of their daily life, your brain is left to fill in all those empty spaces. And let's be honest, it often fills them with doubt.
And here's how that spiral starts. It's always something small. A missed call. A text that goes unanswered for a little too long. That little thing becomes a question in your head. What are they doing? And that question starts to morph into a suspicion. Before you know it, you've built this entire negative story in your mind. And suddenly, your conversations aren't about connecting anymore. They're about you hunting for clues, trying to prove that your worst fears are true. And that's exactly why, for anyone who already has a shaky foundation of trust or insecurity, a long-distance relationship can be absolutely brutal. It's not building a bridge to connect you two. It's creating a constant, exhausting battlefield of anxiety and doubt inside your own head. Okay, so with all of that on the table, how do you figure out if your own connection is the real deal, or if it's just floating in a fantasy? It's time for a really simple but incredibly powerful reality check. All right, I want you to actually try this with me, right now. Just for a sec, close your eyes and get a really clear picture of your partner in your mind. Now, pay close attention to the very first feeling that bubbles up when you think of them. Just notice it. You got it? Okay, now, you need to ask yourself one very honest question. Here it is. Are you in love with the person they are, right now, today? Or are you just really excited by the person you hope they'll become? Is that feeling you have tied to the real person, flaws and all? Or is it tied to the potential you see in them, the character you've cast in your movie, the one from your idealized script? Because, here's the bottom line. A real love, a sustainable love, it can't survive on potential alone. It has to be built on presence. It's about accepting and loving the person who is actually there with you, not just the amazing idea of them that you're holding on to in your mind. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought to chew on. If your relationship needs distance to feel special, if that magic only really ignites when you're apart, what is the closeness hiding? What are you so afraid of finding in the quiet, simple, and sometimes messy reality of being truly, physically close to someone?